Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Hello, wherever you are. Hello, whenever you are. My name is J. Eve Marie, and I want to welcome you back to another Soul episode. Now, in one of our prior episodes called Victim to Victor, I spoke about a system that I had developed, kind of scratching from different books and different podcasts that I myself had listened to. And this system is the system that I use to not necessarily help me get over, but to help me process certain things, whether that be past traumas or something that recently happened when I'm using this thing. So, this system is what I'm going to be talking about today, specifically the first stage, which is acceptance. Now, the idea behind this stage is that in order to heal from any event that we've experienced in our lives, we must first accept that it happened. Now, as we move forward throughout this episode, I really want to hammer in that when we say accept, we are not accepting any specific type of behavior and or treatment from anybody or anything or any system. We are merely accepting the event. Okay, and I'm going to repeat that. We are not accepting a specific type of treatment or behavior when we say the word accept. We are only accepting that something happened. Okay. Now, in terms of acceptance, when we're talking about what is it actually that we're talking about? When we talk about acceptance, what we're really doing is we're acknowledging. And the things that I think it's very important to hone in on is the fact that we want to acknowledge the facts, the circumstances. You want to be able to remove yourself as much as you can from this and acknowledge what happened. Not only how did you experience it, but what are the facts? When did it happen? What happened? Who did what specific thing? Who took what specific action? So, when you are doing this acknowledgement, I would start by looking at the facts themselves, and then I would move into perceptions or past perceptions. This is any kind of state of mind or framework that affects how you are perceiving these actions that are being taken. So whether or not someone actually did or did not do anything to you, it's important to take into account how you are experiencing this thing. Because yes, someone may say a certain thing or do a certain thing, but if you are this type of person, if you're the type of person to feel the need to call someone out of their name or to say someone is being this certain thing instead of saying that they're doing this certain thing, that within itself is a perception. So I would definitely take note of that, and that also constitutes you needing to look at these things more objectively. So from here, it's also very important to acknowledge your feelings and your emotions. Yes, we went into what happened and how did you experience it and what exact actions were taken. But from here, what you want to do is you want to ask yourself how you felt about this thing that happened and the way you were perceiving it, or how more like how when you ask yourself what happened and you ask yourself how you experienced it from this lens, ask yourself, how did you feel from this experience that you had from what happened? And in your mind, how did this affect you? You can also ask yourself, especially if this is something that happened in the past, you want to ask yourself, how do you feel about it now? So if you are doing this more in a workbook form and you are taking actual physical notes of this, what I would recommend doing is writing down or saying, I acknowledge or I accept that this is what I recall happening, and list it out. And once you do that, you can say, I acknowledge and or I accept that this is how I saw it and this is the perception that I had. And then from there, which then we would go into the feelings and emotions, I would write that I acknowledge and or accept that this is how I felt and or feel about it. And this is the impact that it had on me. And at the end of that, once you're done taking your notes and writing your sentences and really going through and trying to think about these things objectively, I would write down, my life experience is valid. Now, what we're doing here is a little bit different than just forgiving someone. So, because especially when it comes to past traumas, this is a situation usually when you are allowing a certain circumstance to, i.e., live in your head rent free. You are allowing it to dictate certain parts of your life and how you view certain parts of your life. If that is the case, then I would definitely encourage you to kind of meditate on that last sentence. My life experience is valid. Especially because moving on to this next step, I really want to explain what we're doing. So the idea is, you don't want anything living in your head actually what I wrote here was, you don't want anything living in your head that ain't paying dividends, because then it's a liability. It is not something that is an asset. If it's not benefiting you in any way, then it is something that is taking your energy, and it could be a boundary from you viewing the world in a way that could benefit you. So if you are allowing this thing to take up space in your head, we need to do something about it. Because the truth is, the park in there has been paid for. It's been paid for through your time, effort, energy. Every time you think about it, that is something you are paying. So the idea is, get this car or this thought, this idea, this event, get this out of your lot that you can't drive because it's not benefiting you, and validate the parking so that you could tow it out. And again, I know this is a strange analogy, but when we say my life experience is valid, after we accept all these things, we are validating that parking, that it has been in our head this whole time, so we could release it. And once we're able to release it, then it's so much easier, to release it or give it the space, the opportunity to be released. Then it's so much easier to move on to the other stages, which are gratitude, forgiveness, and then the official release and rewriting. But once you're able to accept all the facts, your perceptions, and how you feel about it, then you're able to move on. And like I said in that specific video where I said victim, which is called Victim to Victor, I do recall stating that these stages don't always work in this order for everybody. Again, for certain things you may skip some steps, for certain things you may rearrange it, and this all needs to be this all needs to be tailored to each individual person, but this is how it works for me. So, but I definitely think for the masses, or for those who are listening to this, I think that this is the best way for me to introduce it to you. So in taking these steps, you are validating that experience that you had. It was real for you, and it shaped you in some way, shape, or form, and you were acknowledging this. And once you're able to acknowledge, I can't say all counts, because this is something that you are doing within yourself in your head, and you are definitely this primary character that we are acknowledging at this point, but we are acknowledging the story of how this primary character became to be. So again, your life experience is valid, yet if these things they are not benefiting you, accept that they once were, so that we can move on with the steps. All right. So I really hope that this helped whoever is listening today. And I pray that this first stage really helps you guys get going. Again, my name is J. Eve Marie, and I wish you all the best on your SOL journey.